expansions a bit more interesting, so that you could turn it more into. I know people don't like PvP, but influence it so that you can kind of have people in open play, like playing together to influence it, because there's a lot of you get it all the time, don't you? In power play, you'll have one side saying that they're all hiding in private group or solo mode, and then
Well, yeah, of course.
be a good way. It'd be nice to see something that allowed people, they came out in open play, they kind of had to, or whatever,
Well,
or
even
there's a
then,
bonus to doing it in open play.
yeah, but I'd much rather they actually showed the statistics because that would be interesting. Well, you could
Yeah,
show that 67% of this particular power play primarily in this particular type, whether it's solo, private, or open. That would be much more interesting instead of they always do it. Because if it's 99.9% of Mahone pledges who play in solo or private, yeah, that's a reasonable claim. But if it's 67% or whatever, I'm just pulling numbers out of my ass, obviously, then it's not so reasonable. Especially not if the ones you're comparing yourself to turns out to be in a similar number.
yeah. I mean, we've worked as a group for almost all sides at this point, and we when we were helping out when it was um, the Doctor Cruises. We had a lot of federal commanders always being like, "Oh, the Alliance hides in solo mode and stuff." But for the longest periods of time throughout the day, you wouldn't see anybody in the system.
I'm sorry, were you being a puppet of Alliance aggression against the Feds?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I was being I was a weaponized player minor faction, you see, and
I see.
I expanded myself into DR Cruises, and
Yeah.
fought against the Federation
And
because
for a long time, this is basically the kind of sound effect you would hear whenever he was talking,
yeah,
because they said it was buried up my ass.
Commander Base Kicker, if you're watching. I don't know how far up Vectron's ass I am, but it's comfortable and it's nice and warm, so I think I'm gonna stay.
Yeah, and I'm sitting quite happily here.
Yeah, call them straight out on it. I had some fun PvP with them, like, but
Mm.
power play has so much potential too. I mean,
Yeah,
Yeah, I
you
mean,
could,
well, everyone talks about how power play could be better and how certain things are wrong, but it sort of always disparages what's actually really great about it and has been great about it. There's a lot of positive, and a lot
yeah.
of people focus on the negative components, and then because of that, they forget about how to jump from system to system. They
yeah.
forget about how good it actually is in many
Well, that's
ways.
that's the same with everything in Elite at this point. There's a lot of broken things,
Yeah,
and
and
for the
it
longest
really
time
it
I was
really
focusing on
causes
the
people to
negatives.
sour on the
It,
positives.
it completely demoralizes a person. Like I did it for a while. I just sat and I thought, wow, look at all these bugs. Oh, it's horrible. Oh, depressed myself more and more, and I just didn't really play for a bit. But that's what focusing on negatives can do. If you just focus on what's good about the game and play the game and enjoy it, and sure there's bugs, but at the end of the day, at least we have a working game.
Yeah.
At least we
Yeah,
can have fun.
but you
Well,
could.
to be fair, and I don't want to complain, but I will be just a little bit happier if our bonuses actually worked after a year.
Well, that
Yeah,
is definitely
No, that
something
would
that
be
needs to be
no, it's
addressed.
unfair, dude.
It's
but
We're already
completely,
so powerful.
without without changing any of the mechanics or fixing any of the bugs, you could still have made power play so much better if if they had some kind of story that is driven by power play, and there isn't anything like that,
But
and
that's the
we're not
thing.
even, yeah, and we're not even allowed to write anything like that,
And
which is an extreme shame because it would be, imagine how much more people will be joining in if suddenly they keep being told that, oh yeah, now Mahone has pushed into these areas and is starting to exploit them, because well they cook up some kind of reason, doesn't really have to matter what it is, and local federation and independent, well, at least federation groups are seeing it as an act of political aggression towards them, and that would certainly drive more people towards opposing it. Similarly, from other faction views, of course.
And that's the thing. Like they did for the first like couple of weeks of power play, there was like news articles kind of talking about it, but then after that, it just stopped, and it becomes disinteresting. Because even for someone, one of our guys that doesn't really like the idea of power play, he doesn't find it interesting because there really is no, there's nothing that happens in Galnet, for example, that's related to it. You know, there is no story of hey, the Alliance just happens to be exploiting, you know, a system directly, like a complete, you know, a neighbor of Seoul, the capital of the Federation. No, no, no. Why would we talk about that?
Yeah, how on earth did Mahone manage to become the most influential politician in a federation system that is 16 light years from Seoul?
Exactly.
How?
Like, yeah. How is he have a foothold in Wolf 359?
Yeah.
So Wolf 359 was actually a contested system.
It wasn't the Borg that came in and destroyed all those Federation ships, it was the Alliance.
So it wasn't just Federation ships, mind you. It was a combined Federation Klingon fleet.
Well, no one really cares about the Klingons, so.
Did they actually have any gun articles? The ones they did was from Corrigantum. They went from 50. And you could see the limitations that he, well, some limitations that he had.
Talking about this, the famous phantom of a news article which involved the Alliance Council of Admirals.
Yeah, that's
Oh
the
yeah, that
same.
one.
But
And that was a player written one.
Yeah, that
I
was
was gonna
so
say
content.
were
that's
the
what
other
it's all about.
ones. The
The Getty Pirate
articles,
War.
the articles that would summarize the powers were also from Corrigantum, but they were
Yeah.
from direct contact with him instead. So they never did. The only thing they did at first, when power play started, is when they started introducing the powers, and then that was the time where everything stopped about the alliance as well. Like they introduced Mahon, and bam, everything's gone. We had an exploration program going from an alley of community goal, and it's just gone.
Speaking of community goals, that's the one thing that never happened for us. Our community goal got lost in the mist of times or something, which is rather irritating.
We've had enough. Our second community goal was a disaster.
We never
But
even got our first. They told us we would be getting one, and then it never appeared.
when it comes to our, they fucked up the lore behind it. They fucked up the reward.
Well, see, that's the
And
thing. I
they
asked,
fucked.
I emailed like after like a month after submission, after being told yeah it'll happen, and I got no reply, and then I emailed
Well,
after that, no reply.
To a certain extent, some
to their defense, it was around the time that the community position was changing, and Zach took it, and Zach is doing a good job ever since most of the time.
but some of the issues we're seeing are also, especially these kinds, are also down to bad implementation, basically, because a lot of these things do not have some kind of clear path in which they should happen. Like you send an email this is the kind of community goal, blah blah blah, we would have, and then what happens to it? Where does that email go? Instead of having a tool chain that it drops into that people can see. Because if you can make it into a tool chain, then you can make it then you can automate it. And I don't see why there should only be one or two community goals at a time. I mean, if we can have properly fed, automated, no, not automated, but player submitted community goals that can get dropped in, and we can request one, and if it follows specific patterns, yeah, it can get approved or not approved. Or basically, if it follows these patterns, it will get approved. Period. Uh, and then you can have these running all the time, and with a better idea of when will this happen, when will this happen, because well, you
Yeah.
can just see when am I scheduled. Similarly with the player factions, where okay, you send an email, but why is it not a tool that it gets dropped into? Why is it not into a database?
Well, there's a lot of things like
Yeah.
when there was the Emperor's Dawn storyline,
Yeah,
and
what was
everything.
that supposed to be?
Well, it's not even that. Everything was behind. There was nothing else going on, and we had to suffer for like 3-4 months of having combat community goals for the Empire almost every week. And everyone else just has to wait. Why should the Alliance wait for the Empire to finish with the Emperor's Dawn in order for us to do anything?
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. There's no specific reason that you should only have one or two community goals at a time. You could have multiple at a time.
I think the main problem for us was that we were confirmed to get it, and we were giving a generalized date of when it would happen. And so a lot of when a lot of our members were quite excited for getting a community goal, to then it felt like, because a lot of them I'd be asked me, have you heard anything from the devs? No, people felt ignored at that point, and I think that's something they kind of need to touch up on in terms of the community management, is try to not ignore people. I know it's difficult. At the end of the day, they're sifting through lots and lots of emails, but it is their job,
Oh, and Sal had the best fuck up with the CGs. Well, they were fighting for the control of the system they were placed in, and
Oh,
they were
Sal and the community goal they dropped on top of him?
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
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 Well, I've been route planning for the last few hours here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Kirby's saying you should use the spreadsheet he's posted to you. Because that one does automatic calculation, tells you how far ahead you should plot your routes.
Yeah.
So that's the only real issue we've ever really had with their community team, and it annoyed a few people just because they felt ignored. I think that's something that they could definitely improve on.
Yeah, and it's the same issue you see with, or at least it's the same thing I feel with news articles, is that yeah, if it's not good enough, but you never get a reason, it just gets ignored.
Yeah,
At which
that's
point,
exactly.
at which point, it's not, and what they're doing, they're not acting as editors, they're acting as someone who receives those viewer submitted comments, viewer comments, reader comments, whatever the fuck it is in newspapers. But at that point, you're not At that point, you're no longer a story writer. You're just someone who's sending in complaint letters to your points of view, whatever the crap you want to call it. And I feel like that inevitably ends up reducing the quality you get. Also, it makes it a lot less lively. Like I said, if you could dock at a system where a player group exists and you automatically get all of the stuff that they're writing,
yeah,
suddenly the galaxy springs to life.
Yeah, the subscription thing, I wanted that. That'd be nice. I mean, it would give you some real content to read, more often than just Gallant. Yeah, well, the calculator said to do 960 or something, but I'm just doing 600s because the other ones weren't working.
And in the end of the day, those things are connected as well, because if you could actually do stuff in Galnet, you could connect A, B, C, D, and now we're ready for a community goal that we have been working towards, and we've done stuff that lead to it, instead of the community goal just happening out of thin air.
Okay, so I'm more than halfway there, about 2/3 of the way there. I'll see if I can calculate an average time on this next jump that I expect to be there. Or if someone else could do it, that'd be lovely. So I'm at 16,530. So let me just do a real quick calculation. So 16,530 divided by 26,000. I'm 63% of the way there.